A new report finds that the number of Americans living paycheck to paycheck is increasing, pushing back the goal of retirement. That study from Goldman Sachs found that 39% of Gen Z, 45% of millennials, and 41% of Gen X describe their financial situations as primarily living paycheck to paycheck. They also say their situation makes it tough to pursue long-term financial goals. We should point out that number drops to just 18% among baby boomers. One of the authors of that report, Ceder, joins us now. He's also a senior retirement strategist in Goldman Sachs Asset Management Division. Thank you very much for talking to us about this. It's a really interesting study to look at because this goes beyond skipping a latte on the way to work to save a little bit of money. What are the main factors hindering the ability of young people to save for retirement these days?
Yeah, it's a really important question that we're very focused on. As we kind of look back, the world kind of shifted from pensions to DC plans, but really there's much more at play in terms of how people need to save for retirement today. What we've looked at in the survey is how all of the costs of all these competing priorities have really changed really as a percentage of income over the last 20, 25 years. And that's where the results are really quite startling and quite striking because, again, you can see how costs like childcare, costs like going to college, costs of housing and renting. All of those costs are taking a much larger percent of share of someone's income. And so the question, which has really been a fundamental question for this study, was, does the number still work? Can people really fit the retirement savings that we say is necessary in what's left after you think about all these other competing priorities?
So it's not necessarily that people are de-emphasizing retirement. It's the fact that they just can't afford to stay afloat.
That's right. When you think about all the things that need to come together, the question is there basically room left to be able to save long term? And the amount of money that you need to save long term for retirement is still not all that insignificant. You're still looking at anywhere between 8 to 10+%, assuming that your employers are also saving. So the numbers are still meaningful that you need to save, and generally you need to save over the long term of your career as well. And so part of the challenge is that we see that as you have these moments in which we actually think are important, like these life moments is really sort of like what's enjoyable about life. We're just concerned that as they come through, there's a real impact on retirement savings as well. And what can you do about it?
Why are we seeing this big gap between the way that younger generations approach it and older generations?
Well, older generations, one of the challenges that they have is that they did not necessarily, they were for the early generations as we shifted into the 401k world. So they may not have been able to take advantage of early savings. The drumbeat within the industry, which is that saving early really matters, on some level has really resonated with Gen Z and the millennials. So on some level, they actually do have that early savings. But what we're also concerned about is they haven't necessarily lived through all the financial challenges that are ahead. And so as they do, what we're really concerned about is can we give them the tools and the resources so that they can keep their retirement savings on track, but still enjoy all the things that's important about living in life.
Well, on that front, with less than 30 seconds left, what can they do to save for retirement if they're already struggling?
I would say that there's three things. One is be engaged. We talk a lot about people are very nervous about saving for retirement, but what the data does show that people who are engaged and are focused and are actionable, they're actually making significant progress. The other aspect is really a personalized plan. People don't give credit for just understanding, knowing how much you need to save, where you need to save, how impactful that is, because it helps you make informed decision when all these other competing priorities come into play. So those two things, being engaged and making sure you have that personalized plan, really part of the ticket to be able to do this.
Tips to keep in mind as you look ahead. Ceder, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.